Deep in Nebraska's Sandhills, Thomas Warren tends to his father's cattle with the practiced efficiency of someone born to ranch life. To his neighbors, he's just another quiet farm boy with calloused hands and a gentle way with horses. They see his modest demeanor and shy smile, never suspecting what those hands are truly capable of. What the Red River Raiders are about to learn, as their dust clouds approach his family's homestead, is that Thomas Warren has another identity, one that exists only in whispered legends. For 15 years, he was the sole apprentice of Nathaniel "Ghost Hand" McGraw, the deadliest gunslinger the West has ever known, with over 60 confirmed kills and a reputation that made even hardened outlaws tremble. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning sun casts long shadows across the frost-covered pasture as Thomas completes his morning fence check. His boots leave precise tracks in the crystalline grass, each step placed with unconscious precision developed through years of training. He pauses at the eastern fence line, ostensibly examining a loose post, but his eyes scan the distant horizon with practiced vigilance. The sound of approaching horses echoes off the valley walls. 3 riders, he notes automatically. Heavy mounts, likely quarter horses, moving with purpose rather than the casual pace of neighbors. "Post giving you trouble, son," his father's voice carries from the barn, weathered and warm. "Just needs some tightening," Thomas calls back, keeping his tone casual. After 5 years of maintaining their cover, his father can read the subtle changes in his voice, knows when he's spotted something concerning. Might need to replace it come spring. The hoofbeats grow louder, then fade, just another patrol like the dozen others this week. The Red River Raiders marking their territory, building patterns, looking for weaknesses. Thomas recognizes their tactics. He'd learned similar techniques from McGraw in another life, in places where stakes were measured in blood and notches on gun handles. Inside the farmhouse, the morning paper lies open on the kitchen table. Another local ranch. Sold well below market value, third one this month. The coffee pot burbles as his father enters, his weathered face creased with concern. "Jenkins' place went for half what it's worth," he says, pouring 2 cups. "Sheriff Wilson claims they were eager to sell, but the Jenkins worked. That land for 40 years, Thomas finishes, accepting the coffee. Never mentioned selling before the raiders showed up. The sound of horses returns, closer this time. Through the kitchen window, Thomas spots the riders. 3 men in dark dusters, red bandanas marking their allegiance. Their leader, Marcus Kane, rides point on a massive black stallion, his enforcers flanking him on sturdy quarter horses. "They're getting bolder," his father observes quietly. Thomas sips his coffee, mind automatically cataloguing details. Kane's military bearing from his cavalry days, the way his men maintain tactical spacing without realizing it, the telltale bulges under their coats that suggest hidden weapons. Deputy Hayes had stopped by yesterday, saying they were just passing through, part of some cattle drive operation. "And you believe that?" Thomas keeps his voice neutral, but his eyes never leave the riders. "About as much as you do." His father knows his son, knows the warrior hidden beneath his quiet demeanor. The question is, what are they really after? The raiders pass the ranch entrance slowly, Kane's head turning to study the property. Thomas notes how his gaze lingers on key tactical positions. The barn's upper window, the water tower, the elevated pasture that overlooks the main approach. "They're planning something," he says softly. "Those aren't just random patrols. They're gathering intelligence, establishing patterns, looking for..." He catches himself, nearly slipping into tactical terminology that would seem odd coming from a simple ranch hand. "Looking for what, Tom?" Before he can answer, a wagon appears on the road. Sarah Mitchell's supply cart. The raiders surround it, forcing it to stop. Thomas sets down his coffee, body tensing imperceptibly as he watches the confrontation unfold. Kane leans toward the driver's seat, his voice carrying clearly in the morning air. "Miss Mitchell, been meaning to talk to you about that store lease." Sarah's response is inaudible, but her body language speaks volumes. Shoulders tight, hands clenched on the reins. Thomas recognizes the signs of someone being threatened, someone being forced into a corner. "Think carefully about our offer." Kane's voice carries that false friendliness that poorly masks menace. "Hate to see anything happen to that nice new merchandise." The raiders roar away, leaving Sarah's wagon in a cloud of dust. Thomas watches her grip the reins for long moments before continuing toward town, the wagon's path slightly unsteady. "They're not just targeting ranches," he says quietly. "They're moving on the whole town. The store today, probably the saloon next. Standard pattern: isolate, intimidate, control." His father studies his son's face, seeing the tactical analysis. He's struggling to hide. "Tom, are we going to have to leave?" Thomas turns from the window, and for just a moment his father sees behind his careful mask, sees the warrior his son had become during those years of secret training with McGraw. "No," he says softly, "we're not leaving, but it's time to make some preparations." As if to punctuate his words, more hoofbeats rumble in the distance. Thomas returns to the window, watching dust clouds approach on the horizon. This time, it's 5 riders, with Kane again in the lead. They're done probing, done gathering intelligence. Now they're coming to make their play. Thomas's hand brushes unconsciously against his hip, where a custom Colt Peacemaker rests, concealed beneath his work shirt. McGraw's final gift to his apprentice. The Red River Raiders think they're about to pressure a simple farm boy. Instead, they're about to learn why some of the West's deadliest outlaws still speak of Ghost Hand's apprentice in whispers. "Father," he says quietly, "I think you should head into town, and maybe visit that lockbox we never talk about." His father nods, understanding perfectly. The time for maintaining cover is ending. The warrior is awakening. Dust billows behind the approaching horses as the raiders ride up the ranch's gravel path. Thomas watches from the porch, hands relaxed at his sides, posture deliberately uncertain. Everything about his stance projects vulnerability, exactly what Kane and his men expect to see. They don't notice how his weight is perfectly balanced, how his position gives him clear views of all approaches, how he's already noted their weapons and tactical weaknesses. Marcus Kane kills his stallion's forward momentum, the sudden silence heavy with menace. His enforcers spread out in a practiced formation, Jackson and Hawk flanking wide, Cruz and Thompson hanging back to watch the road. Rivers remains mounted, reins loose but ready. The positioning would be impressive if Thomas hadn't seen better in a dozen frontier showdowns during his training with McGraw. "Young Mr. Warren," Kane's voice carries that false charm that poorly masks predatory intent. "Beautiful morning for a ride." His boots crunch on gravel as he approaches the porch steps, stopping just short, looking up at Thomas, trying to establish dominance through positioning. Amateur move. "Mr. Kane." Thomas lets a slight tremor enter his voice. "We're not interested in selling. My father's already told your men." "Now see, that's not entirely accurate." "Why?" Kane spreads his hands in a gesture of reasonable negotiation. "Your father told my associates he needed time to think. We've given you that time. Now we're here to discuss a very generous offer." Behind him, Jackson shifts his duster deliberately, displaying the revolver holstered beneath. Thomas catalogues it automatically. Remington model 1875, poor grip technique, 3 seconds to draw at best. The others carry similar weapons, all displayed with the same clumsy attempt at intimidation. $10,000, Kane continues. "Well above market value, because we respect what your family's built here." His smile doesn't reach his eyes. "We're businessmen, Mr. Warren. We believe in fair compensation." The screen door creaks as Sarah Mitchell steps onto the porch. Her arrival isn't a coincidence. Thomas had seen her wagon approaching minutes ago, recognized the dust pattern through the trees. Sarah's presence was a calculated risk, but one Thomas needed to take. "Tom," Sarah's voice carries genuine concern. "Everything all right? I brought those supplies your father ordered." Kane's enforcers tense slightly at the unexpected arrival. Hawk takes 2 steps forward, hand drifting toward his weapon, but Kane waves him back. "Miss Mitchell, wasn't expecting to see you out here. Thought you'd be busy at the store, considering recent developments." Sarah's shoulders tighten almost imperceptibly. "Just making my rounds, Mr. Kane. Some of us still believe in taking care of our neighbors." The implied criticism makes Thompson step forward aggressively, but Kane stops him with a sharp gesture. His careful mask of civility stays in place, but Thomas sees the cold calculation beneath. He's reassessing the situation, recognizing that witnesses complicate things. "Speaking of neighbors," Kane's tone shifts subtly, "you should ask Miss Mitchell about the benefits of progress, about how change is inevitable in a place like this, about what happens to people who don't adapt." Sarah's hand finds Thomas's arm, a gesture of support that also serves to sell the image of 2 frightened townspeople. But Thomas notes how her fingers tap quietly against his sleeve. 3 quick touches, an old signal from McGraw's. Training, meaning multiple hostile groups spotted in town. "The store lease," Thomas says carefully, watching Kane's reaction. "That's what this is really about, isn't it? Not just our ranch, but the whole valley." "Smart boy." Kane's smile widens fractionally. "See, that's why I wanted to handle this personally. You understand the bigger picture, how everything connects." He steps closer, boots on the first porch step. The ranch, the store, the roads leading north. It's all part of a plan. Progress, development, future. A burst of static comes. From the radio clipped to Cruz's belt, a voice partially masked by interference. "Shipment confirmed. Loading at Snake Creek. Need cleanup at waypoint 3. Kane's expression flickers for just a moment. Annoyance at the operational security. "Breach." Thomas mentally logs every detail: Snake Creek location, the term waypoint, the implied logistics chain. Pieces of a larger puzzle starting to form. "Think about the offer, Mr. Warren." Kane backs away, maintaining eye contact. $10,000 buys a lot of peace of mind, lot of security, lot of insurance. The threat hangs in the air like smoke. The raiders mount up with practiced coordination. As they roar away, Thomas notices how they split at the road, 3 heading toward town, 2 turning north toward Snake Creek. Another piece of the puzzle. "They're watching the store," Sarah says quietly, once the horses are gone. "Men I've never seen before, taking pictures, making notes. This morning they—" She stops, hands shaking slightly. "Tell me." Thomas keeps his voice gentle while his mind calculates angles, options, strategies. "They destroyed my new merchandise, said it was an accident, said it would be a shame if more accidents happened. Regular inspections failed, licenses revoked." Sarah's voice hardens. "They're trying to force me out, just like the Jenkins Ranch, just like the others." Thomas guides his friend inside, mind working on multiple levels. The store's location near the northern road, the ranch's strategic position, Snake Creek's abandoned silver mine, waypoints and shipments and cleaning crews. A pattern emerging, one he'd seen before in darker places during his training with McGraw. "Tom." Sarah's voice carries years of friendship, of unspoken understanding. "I know that look. I remember it from before, from when McGraw was training you." Thomas moves to the window, watching dust clouds fade on the horizon. "They're not just buying land," he says quietly. "They're building a corridor, supply lines, transfer points, using legitimate businesses as cover. His voice carries the same tactical precision that McGraw had drilled into him. The question is, what are they moving? A distant horse approaches, another raider returning alone. Through his spyglass, Thomas recognizes Thompson dismounting at the gate, tying something to the fence post. Even from here, he can see the red warning sign, condemnation notice. They're done playing nice, Sarah observes. No, Thomas agrees, softly. Now they'll try force, pressure, intimidation. He turns from the window, and Sarah sees her friend's careful mask slip, revealing the warrior beneath. What they don't understand is that some people don't respond well to pressure. Some people push back. The sound of more horses echoes off distant hills. The Red River Raiders are mobilizing in force, preparing to take what they want. But they're about to learn that the most dangerous predators are often the ones who appear the weakest, the ones who know how to wait, the ones who've spent years hiding their true nature. The apprentice is stirring. The hunt is about to begin. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Pre-dawn light creeps over the Nebraska Sandhills as Thomas retrieves his hidden trail cameras. The memory cards contain 3 days of surveillance, every horse passing the North Road, every suspicious movement near Snake Creek. He works with practiced efficiency, leaving no trace of his presence. Years of training under McGraw don't fade, they just find new applications. The general store's lights are already on when he arrives in town. Sarah Mitchell's wagon sits alone in the dirt lot, frost still coating its wheels. Thomas notes fresh hoof prints in the mud. Someone's been watching the store all night. Didn't expect anyone this early. Sarah's voice carries forced cheerfulness as Thomas enters. Her hands shake slightly as she arranges canned goods, eyes darting frequently to the window. Coffee's fresh if you'd like. Thanks. Thomas studies the store's interior, noting signs of a recent confrontation. Scattered merchandise hastily replaced, a broken shelf poorly repaired. Rough night? Just some new customers. Sarah attempts a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Very persistent about their shopping preferences. A horse thunders past outside. Through the window, Thomas watches as Hawk dismounts across the street, maintaining clear sightlines into the store. Amateur surveillance, but effective enough to intimidate locals. They're demanding protection money, Sarah whispers, arranging cans with shaking hands. Said if I don't pay, accidents might happen. Deliveries getting lost. Health inspectors finding violations. She straightens a display of local honey, talking without making eye contact. When last night that big one, calls himself Thompson, made it clear I had until Friday. You should see how they look at my younger sister when she's helping. At the register, Thomas's hand tightens imperceptibly on his coffee cup. Through the window, he spots Deputy Hayes's patrol horse approaching. The deputy dismounts deliberately between the store and Hawk's observation position. Mr. Warren. Hayes enters, nodding professionally. Her uniform is crisp, but dark circles. Under her eyes suggest long nights. Mind if I join you, ladies? Hawk spurs his horse in obvious irritation before galloping away. Thomas notes how he takes the North Road, another piece of the pattern. Got something you should see, Hayes says quietly once he's gone. She spreads photographs on the counter. Surveillance shots from the silver mine taken last night. The photos show wagons arriving at the mine, expensive carriages with blacked-out windows, supply carts with covered loads. But Thomas's attention fixes on cargo being unloaded, long crates with distinctive military markings. Those aren't hunting rifles, he observes neutrally. No, sir. Hayes's voice carries controlled anger. And the men unloading them had military bearing, professional, not your typical raiders. She hesitates. Sheriff says it's not our jurisdiction to leave it alone. But my brother served in the cavalry. I know military hardware when I see it. New hoofbeats approach, multiple horses, heavy gait. Thomas guides both women away from the windows as Hawk returns with reinforcements. Cruz and Thompson flank. Their formation suggesting anticipated violence. "Think carefully about your next insurance payment, Miss Mitchell," Cruz calls through the open door. "Rates go up fast in this economy." Hayes moves to intervene, but Thomas's hand on her arm stops her. "Not yet," he says softly. "Some battles need proper preparation." The raiders gallop away, but their message lingers. Sarah's hands still shake as she straightens merchandise. "There's more," Hayes continues once they're gone. "County records show most of these property sales aren't just below market value. They're being processed through shell companies, businesses that didn't exist a month ago, and the paperwork's getting rushed through, signatures verified by—" She stops, implications clear. "By Sheriff Wilson," Thomas finishes. Another piece of the puzzle. Hayes nods grimly. Someone's building something big, using the raiders as muscle, using legitimate businesses as cover. But what worries me most? She produces one final photo. A familiar face meeting with Kane at the mine. Is this? Thomas studies the image carefully. The man with Kane carries himself with military precision, wears civilian clothes that don't quite hide his cavalry background. He recognizes the type, former Union officer, probably turned mercenary after the war, the real professionals behind the raiders' operation. "Deputy," he says carefully, "those trail cameras, they record at night when properly configured." Hayes's tone suggests understanding. "Might take me a few days to adjust them, reposition some, particularly around waypoint 3, wherever that is." Thomas nods appreciation for the deputy's careful phrasing. "Sarah, about that insurance problem. I might know someone who specializes in high-risk coverage." Later, riding home, Thomas spots fresh hoofprints turning north toward the mine. Their pattern suggests heavy loads, military transport protocols. He pulls off at a hidden turnout, retrieving a telegram from a concealed saddlebag. The message he sends hasn't been used in years, but old connections never really die. When the telegraph operator confirms receipt, he speaks in clipped tones that would surprise his neighbors. Authentication code, Ghost Hand 7. Need background on military operations in Nebraska territory. Focus on weapons trafficking patterns. Matching Kansas City protocol. The response is immediate. Ghost Hand Echo. Confirm contact. Data incoming. Be advised multiple agencies monitoring similar activity. Region. Designated high priority. Thomas ends the exchange. Mind processing implications. The Red River Raiders aren't just another outlaw gang. They're frontline troops in something bigger, probably not even aware who they're really working for. But now, an apprentice is watching, gathering intelligence, preparing to strike. And apprentices, as certain people are about to learn, are very patient hunters. His father's wagon kicks up dust as it races down the ranch road, moving faster than his usual careful pace. Thomas spots 3 riders following at a distance, harassment becoming more overt. He waits on the porch, counting seconds until the raiders turn back, noting their patrol pattern. "Bank's refusing our equipment loan," his father announces as he dismounts, dust coating his weathered face. "Manager couldn't look me in the eye, just kept saying policies had changed." He hands Thomas a folder of papers, hands shaking with barely controlled anger. Then I saw who was waiting in his office, Kane and Sheriff Wilson. Thomas scans the documents, noting irregularities. Loan applications suddenly denied, property taxes reassessed, equipment liens appearing from nowhere, financial warfare designed to pressure sellers into quick deals. "That's not all," his father continues, voice low. "Overheard Kane talking about shipping manifests, military equipment being moved through old mining trails. Sheriff's deputies are being told to avoid certain roads on certain nights. A wagon appears on the horizon, Sarah Mitchell's vehicle moving erratically. 2 riders flank it aggressively, forcing it toward the shoulder. Thomas's hand tightens on the porch railing, body tensing as he recognizes Thompson and Cruz performing the escort. The wagon skids to a stop in their yard. Sarah stumbles out, supply ledger clutched tight. Her store coat shows signs of a struggle, torn sleeve, muddy handprint on the back. "Inside," Thomas orders, scanning for surveillance. The riders circle. Once before departing, a clear message delivered. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore." Sarah's voice shakes as she accepts his father's offered coffee. 4 men in cavalry uniforms came to the store, said they needed a reliable supply station, someone to handle inventory without asking questions. She opens her ledger, removing a crumpled paper. "I found this in one of their jackets when they were intimidating my sister." Thomas studies the document. Partial shipping manifest, professional formatting, military equipment being moved through multiple checkpoints, each requiring supply coverage for high-risk operations. "Called Sheriff Wilson," Sarah continues. "He said they're legitimate military contractors, that I should cooperate. Then Thompson showed up, said the same thing more directly." She pushes up her sleeve, revealing finger-shaped bruises. "Made his point clear." His father moves to say something, but Thomas raises his hand slightly. Hoofbeats approach, not raiders this time. A black carriage with drawn curtains turns into their drive, followed by 2 riders. Thomas recognizes the military precision of their formation. "Father," he says quietly, "get Sarah to the back room. Tell Deputy Hayes it's time." Kane exits the carriage, but he's not alone. A man in expensive cavalry uniform joins him, the same officer from Hayes's surveillance photos. They approach the porch with practiced coordination, flanked by Hawk and Rivers. "Mr. Warren." Kane's false charm has vanished, replaced by cold efficiency. "We need to conclude our business today." The officer steps forward. His stance, his bearing, the way his eyes constantly scan everything screams military background. "Son, I represent certain development interests. We've acquired all necessary properties in this area except yours. This is a courtesy call before legal proceedings begin." Thomas lets his posture suggest fear, but his mind catalogues tactical details, how many weapons they're carrying, their fields of fire, the way the officer favors his right side, old injury, exploitable weakness. "I don't understand," he forces a tremor into his voice. "What legal proceedings? Property inspections?" Kane smiles without warmth. "Safety regulations? Environmental surveys? Amazing how many violations turn up when people look closely." His gaze shifts toward the store. "Ask Miss Mitchell about regulatory compliance." A rider approaches at full gallop. The officer steps away to confer. Thomas's enhanced hearing, developed through years of McGraw's training, catches fragments. "Shipment confirmed. Security teams in position. Supply coverage arranged. 2 hours." 2 hours, Kane states flatly. "Sign the transfer papers, take the money, leave the area, or we do this differently." He glances towards Sarah through the window. "Miss Mitchell's already learned about different approaches. Don't make us teach. You too." They depart with military precision, but Thomas catches the officer making hand signals to hidden observers. More riders appear on distant ridgelines. Red River raiders deploying in force. Inside, Thomas moves with focused purpose. Hidden caches reveal weapon caches his father never knew existed. Surveillance equipment emerges from concealed compartments. "Those aren't regular raiders," Sarah observes, recognizing military gear. "Private security doesn't carry that level of hardware." "No," Thomas agrees, checking sight lines through windows. They're running a major weapons smuggling operation, using the raiders for cover, buying properties to control transport routes. The store would handle supply lines, keep things quiet. His voice shifts to the clipped tones McGraw had drilled into him during their years of training. A burst of static from a hidden radio. Deputy Hayes's voice. Multiple wagons moving. North. Military transport pattern. They're mobilizing. Tom. His father watches his son check weapons with practiced efficiency. What aren't you telling me about this land? Why you chose it? The sight lines, Thomas answers quietly. The defensive positions. The old mining tunnels from the Silver Rush days, perfect for monitoring north-south traffic through the valley. He meets his father's eyes. Perfect for a hunter to work from. Outside, more riders gather on distant roads. The Red River Raiders are preparing for war, not realizing they're just pawns in a larger game. But Thomas Warren didn't spend 15 years as Ghost Hand's apprentice by being predictable. The trap is set. The hunter is about to become prey. Father, he says softly, remember that lockbox? Time to open everything, all of it. The apprentice is done watching. The real operation is about to begin. Darkness shrouds the valley as Thomas checks his surveillance network. The old trail cameras, strategically placed weeks ago, show the Red River Raiders' entire operation. Riders moving in formation, wagons arriving at Snake Creek Mine, military contractors establishing security perimeters. They think they're being careful. They don't realize they're being hunted. His telegram wire buzzes. Deputy Hayes's coded message. Multiple wagons at waypoint 3, military crates, armed escorts. Through his spyglass, Thomas watches contractors direct a convoy of covered wagons. Their movements are professional, coordinated, but they've missed the obvious. High ground gives clear views of their secret route. His father returns from town, expression grim. They're hitting everyone now. Sarah's store, the saloon, even. Old Thompson's livery stable. Thompson and Cruz are leading teams through town, demanding protection money, making examples of anyone who resists. A scream pierces the night, Mary Bennett's voice carrying from the general store. Thomas is already moving as 3 riders thunder past their ranch, Hawk leading the pack toward town. They're escalating faster than expected, forcing him to accelerate his timeline. Stay here, he tells his father, retrieving gear from hidden caches. If Kane comes, stick to the story. Just a frightened rancher considering their offer. The store's windows are broken when he arrives. Merchandise scattered across the wooden sidewalk. Rivers stands guard outside while Thompson and Hawk terrorize. Those inside. Deputy Hayes's horse stands empty nearby. They've timed this during her northern patrol. Thomas approaches like any concerned neighbor would, but his mind calculates angles, positions, vulnerabilities. Through the broken glass, he sees Mary backed against the register, her younger sister Emily held roughly by Thompson. Insurance. Payments doubled, Hawk announces, sweeping canned goods off shelves. Price of doing business keeps going up. Shame if something happened to your girl while she's walking home from school. Everything all right here? Thomas's voice carries just the right mix of concern and fear. Perfect bait. Thompson shoves Emily aside, turning toward the new target. Private business discussion, farm boy. Best move along before you have your own accident. Thomas lets them see his trembling hands, his nervous posture, lets them think they're the predators. But he's already noted their tactical mistakes. Poor position relative to exits, weapons stored for show rather than quick access, no real combat awareness. Just came to buy supplies, he stammers, carefully moving to block their sight lines through the front windows. Please don't hurt anyone. Hawk laughs, moving closer. Actually, glad you're here. Kane wants to know if you've reconsidered his offer. Deadline's getting real close. A carriage approaches, not law enforcement, but one of the contractor's private coaches. The driver, face hidden behind an officer's cap, signals urgently to Hawk. Thomas catches their whispered conversation. Shipment compromised, mechanical, failures, need immediate backup. Hawk curses, grabbing his reins. Through the static, Thomas hears growing chaos. Wagons broken down, mysterious equipment failures, security patrols malfunctioning. almost like someone with military experience had anticipated their route and taken appropriate countermeasures. "We're not finished here," Thompson growls, shoving past Thomas. The raiders thunder away toward Snake Creek Mine, leaving scattered merchandise and terrified civilians in their wake. "They'll be back," Mary whispers, holding her sobbing sister. "Probably bring more next time. Make an example." "No," Thomas says quietly, helping them clean up. "They won't." Through the window, he spots Deputy Hayes's horse returning. Right. On schedule. Everything proceeding according to plan. His telegram wire vibrates. Encrypted message from McGraw's old contacts. Surveillance confirmed. Weapons matching Army arsenal. International buyers involved. Another message follows from Hayes. "Sheriff Wilson ordering patrols away from North Roads tonight. Major shipment. Planned." Thomas helps Mary board up windows while his mind processes intelligence. The Red River Raiders are just the visible threat, street-level muscle. The real operation is bigger. Professional contractors, international arms dealers, corrupted officials. A complex machine with many moving parts. But machines can be broken piece by piece, component by component. The store's telegraph clicks. Kane himself making threats, demanding compliance. But Thomas hears something else in the background. Arguing, contractors frustrated, buyers growing impatient, operational plans unraveling as equipment mysteriously fails. "They're getting desperate," he tells Mary once the call ends. "Making mistakes, showing their hand." "How can you be so sure?" Thomas allows himself a small smile. "Because I've seen this before. Men like this, they thrive on fear, control, intimidation. Take that away." He lets the thought hang as more riders thunder past, heading north with increasing urgency. His telegram buzzes again, his father warning that Kane is heading toward the store. The next phase is starting, pressure increasing as their operation faces delays. But pressure reveals weaknesses, creates opportunities. Time to let them think they've won the first round. Let them focus on bullying shopkeepers and threatening families. Let them miss the apprentice methodically dismantling their operation from the shadows. Thomas leaves Mary with Deputy Hayes, then rides toward the store. He can already hear hoofbeats converging there. Hawk and his enforcers ready to make examples. They'll expect to find a scared shopkeeper, an empty store, an easy target. Instead, they're about to learn why some targets aren't as defenseless as they appear, why some hunters prefer to be underestimated. The apprentice is done gathering intelligence. Time to start the real operation. The store's hitching posts fill with horses as Thomas pulls up, counting riders through his peripheral vision. Hawk and Thompson flank the entrance, while Cruz and Rivers circle the building. Parker watches the street, hand resting on his holstered revolver. Their positioning is aggressive but predictable, standard intimidation tactics lacking real tactical awareness. Inside, Mary Mitchell faces down Kane and two military contractors. Her voice carries through the open door, steady despite the pressure. "I don't care about your permits. This is my store, and you don't dictate supply arrangements here." Actually, Kane's tone suggests barely controlled rage. "We do. Unless you want the Territorial Business Board to receive some concerning documentation about inventory irregularities." Thomas enters like any concerned citizen would, projecting nervousness and uncertainty. But his mind maps exit routes, catalogs weapons, notes the contractor's equipment, high-end military gear, Army-issue communications, the kind of hardware that requires special connections. "What's happening?" he asks, letting fear color his voice. "Mary, are you all right?" Kane turns, frustration evident. "Seems everyone's making poor choices today. First the ranch, now the store." He gestures to the contractors. "These gentlemen need to establish a supply depot. Miss Mitchell is being unreasonable about sharing space." The lead contractor steps forward, hand drifting toward his concealed holster. "Son, this is a private matter. I suggest you leave." Thompson moves to herd Thomas toward the door, but he notes the enforcer's sloppy approach, his poor balance. The 3 seconds it would take him to draw his weapon. Amateur mistakes that will matter very soon. A rider approaches at full gallop. The contractor answers the messenger's urgent whisper, face darkening. "What do you mean another wagon is down? That's 4 mechanical failures in 2 hours. Fix it." He turns to Kane. "Buyers are getting nervous. Need this corridor secured now. Then let's solve both problems." Kane nods to Thompson and Cruz. "Show Miss Mitchell what happens to uncooperative business owners. Make it messy enough to motivate young Mr. Warren's upcoming property decision." The raiders advance, but Thomas is already moving. His stumble appears clumsy, but puts him inside Thompson's strike range. The enforcer's swing misses, as Thomas seemingly trips into Cruz. His apparent fall masks the precise pressure point strike that leaves the raider gasping. Hawk reaches for his revolver but finds empty air, his holster mysteriously unfastened during the confusion. The weapon slides across the floor as chaos erupts, everyone moving at once, but only one person truly controlling the space. Thomas maintains his frightened act even as he systematically dismantles the attack. A supply crate tips, appearing to catch him as he falls, but sending precisely aimed tools into River's path. He stumbles again, somehow tangling Parker's feet as he charges, sending him crashing into his own allies. The contractors recognize the technique even if they don't spot its source. Professional defensive tactics disguised as civilian clumsiness. Their hands move toward weapons, but Deputy Hayes' sudden arrival freezes everyone. "Everything all right here?" Hayes asks, hand resting meaningfully on her sidearm. Her patrol horse blocks the exit, dash lantern recording everything. Kane forces a smile. "Just a misunderstanding. Our friends were leaving." He glares at Mary. "We'll continue this discussion later." But Thomas catches his whispered command. To the contractors, "Full response tonight. Make examples." The raiders mount up, their intimidation play ruined. But Thomas notes their departure routes, their rally points, the way they split up to cover different sectors. Their planned operation is clearly larger than simple extortion. "They'll be back," Mary says once they're gone. "Probably with more muscle." "Count on it." Thomas helps clean up the store, positioning certain items for quick access later. "That's why we'll be ready." "Your security shutters working?" Mary asks. "Crashed this morning, along with half their wagons." Thomas's smile holds grim, understanding. Amazing how much can go wrong when certain people push too hard. His telegram wire vibrates. Encrypted message from his old mentor's contacts. Buyers identified, international arms dealers. Heavy weapons deal scheduled tonight. Through the window, he spots Sheriff Wilson's horse meeting Kane's crew behind the lumberyard. More pieces. Falling into place, the real operation about to begin. "Deputy," he turns to Hayes, "about those trail cameras you installed last week, any interesting patterns?" Multiple wagons converging tonight. Different approach routes, all heading north. Hayes' expression suggests she's guessed some of Thomas's background. Might need extra patrols in certain areas. Shame if someone interfered with their schedule. Thomas nods, mind already planning next moves. The Red River Raiders thought they were attacking a simple store, never realizing they'd revealed vital operational details. "Mary," he says quietly, "remember that contingency plan we discussed? Time to implement all of it." His telegram buzzes again, his father reporting increased activity at the ranch border. Kane's crew returning in force, probably planning to make examples of uncooperative landowners. Perfect. Let them come. Let them think their intimidation is working. Let them miss the real operation until it's too late. The apprentice has their measure now. The real hunting is about to begin. The town of Hope Valley transforms as sunset approaches. Storefronts close early, windows shutter, streets empty. Red River Raiders patrol in formation, their presence no longer pretending to be casual. Hawk leads a team down Main Street while Thompson and Cruz systematically visit businesses, delivering final warnings. Thomas watches from Mary's store, noting patrol patterns. 3 riders at the north end, 2 south, others circling intermittently. Professional coverage suggesting military consultation, but with obvious blind spots they don't realize exist. "They hit the livery stable an hour ago," Mary whispers, hands shaking as she loads her father's old shotgun. Broke Jim Thompson's arm when he tried to argue. Sheriff Wilson just watched through the window. Through the window, Thomas spots unfamiliar carriages arriving. Expensive coaches with army markings, men in uniforms that don't quite hide shoulder holsters. The buyers Kane's been waiting for. Hayes has eyes on them, Mary continues, showing Thomas her telegram. The deputy's message is clear. 3 more wagons at the silver mine. Heavy security, military-grade weapons visible. Thomas's telegram. Wire vibrates with his father's coded warning. More riders approaching the ranch, Rivers leading an aggressive show of force. Exactly as expected. Their pressure increasing as the weapons deal approaches. "Time to go," Thomas tells Mary. "Remember, the plan, when they come, give them what they expect." Outside, he notes Hawk speaking urgently with one of the contractors, their body language suggesting growing tension. Something's wrong with their carefully planned operation. Equipment failures, mechanical problems, communication issues. Almost like someone systematically disrupting their infrastructure. His telegram buzzes again. Encrypted message from McGraw's old contacts. Buyers confirmed. Former Confederate officers. Heavy hardware deal scheduled 2200 hours. "Sheriff." Wilson's horse rolls past, escorting another carriage. Through the drawn curtains, Thomas spots Kane, meeting with men whose bearing screams military background. More layers of the operation revealed. "Tom." Dr. Sarah Palmer's voice carries controlled urgency as she exits her clinic. They're moving something into the old mine tunnels. Multiple wagons, armed guards. The tunnels, of course. Thomas's mind maps the old mining network beneath the valley, perfect for moving illegal cargo, avoiding main roads. He'd studied those tunnels for months, knowing they'd be crucial. A commotion erupts at the livery stable, Thompson and Cruz making examples of another uncooperative owner. But Thomas notes how their violence seems forced, almost desperate. They're behind schedule, buyers getting nervous, pressure building. His telegram records it all. Hayes's message confirms, got everything documented. Wilson involved directly. Now. More riders thunder past, heading north. Thomas spots military cases poorly concealed under wagon covers. Slow. They're rushing now, making mistakes. The apprentice's strategic disruption pushing them toward inevitable errors. Multiple wagons approaching from the county line. Hayes's next message reports. Heavy security, looks like the main shipment starting. Thomas rides toward his ranch, noting increased activity. Red River Raiders everywhere, their previous attempts at subtlety abandoned. They think they're showing force. Actually, they're revealing their entire operational structure. His father meets him at the gate. Found something in the old barn. Records. These tunnels. They don't just run under our property. They connect to the old rail line, come up right behind the silver mine. Show me. The tunnel entrance is hidden behind decades of debris, but the airflow suggests recent use. Thomas's lantern reveals fresh wagon tracks, scuff marks from heavy crates. They've been using these passages, never realizing who else knows about them. His military-grade spyglass shows increased activity at the silver mine. Wagons arriving, armed contractors establishing perimeter security, Kane coordinating with the weapons buyers. Everything proceeding according to their plan, and according to his. "They're getting ready," his father observes, watching riders gather at their property line. Probably hit us after dark. Make an example. Yes. Thomas checks his pocket watch, calculating timing. They'll want to clear any resistance before the main shipment moves. Standard tactical protocol. He allows himself a small smile. Shame they don't know about the other tunnels, or the old railroad maintenance sheds, or certain equipment installed months ago. A message from Hayes. Wilson ordered all patrols away from North Roads. It's starting. Perfect. Let them think they control the situation. Let them focus on intimidating locals while missing the real operation happening right under them. Thomas's telegram lights up. Time to coordinate with McGraw's contacts. With Hayes, with Mary and Sarah. Everyone in position, playing their roles. The Red River Raiders think they're about to demonstrate their power. Instead, they're about to learn why some predators prefer to be underestimated. The real operation begins at sunset. The apprentice is ready to show them exactly who they're dealing with. Night settles over the Warren Ranch as the Red River Raiders make their move. Riders approach from multiple directions, their formation suggesting military guidance. Hawk leads from the north, while Thompson and Cruz circle west. Rivers and Parker cover the eastern approach, all converging with practice coordination. Thomas watches through his spyglass, counting riders, 20 men, 3 carriages carrying contractors, Kane's stallion leading. They think they're executing a show of force. Actually, they're riding into a carefully prepared trap. Main force approaching, he tells his father, who monitors their security network. Right on schedule. Hayes is in position, he confirms. Sarah's got the clinic ready. Mary reports the buyers are getting nervous, their timelines off. Lanterns illuminate the ranch as riders surround the property. Kane dismounts, contractors flanking him with professional precision. Their weapons remain concealed, keeping up appearances despite the obvious military hardware in their carriages. The apprentice's work isn't finished. The hunt has only just begun. Last chance, Mr. Warren. Kane's voice carries forced confidence. Fire sale prices end tonight, along with our patience. The morning sun paints the mountains gold as Thomas steps onto the porch, maintaining his frightened farm boy demeanor. But he's already noted their tactical weaknesses. Poor coverage of the North Ridge, wagons positioned without proper escape routes, communications relying on unsecured channels. Mr. Kane, he lets his voice shake slightly. Please, we just need more time to... Time's up. He gestures to Thompson and Cruz. Show him what happens to uncooperative neighbors. The enforcers advance, but Thomas is already moving. His stumble appears clumsy, but places him exactly where he needs to be. Suddenly, lanterns burst from concealed positions, momentarily blinding the raiders. In the confusion, none of them notice certain horses experiencing mysterious mechanical troubles. What the hell? Thompson raises his hand against the glare, missing how Thomas's fearful retreat has separated their formation, created tactical gaps. Radio-static bursts from the contractors' communications, their supposedly secure channels filling with interference. Coordination compromised. Kane grabs his telegram device, face darkening as messages arrive. Problems with the weapons shipment, routes unexpectedly blocked, surveillance patrols failing. Sir, one contractor approaches urgently. Main convoys reporting issues. Alternative. Routes are, they're compromised. Someone knows our backup plans. Thomas watches Kane's composure crack slightly. The operation is unraveling. Equipment failures, communication problems, blocked routes. Almost like someone with military experience has been systematically targeting their infrastructure. Hawk moves to grab Thomas, but finds himself strangely off balance, his combat training countered by moves he barely registers. Other raiders face similar problems, weapons catching on holsters, horses failing to respond, tactical positions suddenly exposed. Enough games. Kane signals the contractors. Clear the property. Send a message. But Deputy Hayes's arrival changes the dynamic. Her horse's lantern records everything as she steps down, hand meaningfully near her weapon. Problem here? Folks, just a property dispute. Kane forces a smile. Behind him, contractors desperately try to hide military hardware in their wagons. Hayes's telegram device crackles. All units, multiple suspicious wagons reported north of town. Heavy equipment, military-grade weapons observed. The contractors exchange worried looks. Their operational security is compromised, their timeline disrupted, their routes exposed. Professional operators recognizing when a situation has shifted against them. Pull back, Kane orders finally. Regroup at waypoint 3. But even their retreat reveals operational details. Rally points, communication protocols, chain of command. As horses thunder away, Thomas spots a familiar carriage approaching the silver mine. Sheriff Wilson meeting with the weapons buyers. Their body language suggests growing tension. The deal is delayed, security compromised, promises unfulfilled. They'll be back, his father says quietly, probably with more force. Count on it. Thomas watches tail lights disappear into darkness. But now we know their patterns, their protocols, their weaknesses. His telegram lights up with messages. Hayes reporting wagon movements, Sarah confirming clinic preparations, Mary passing intelligence about buyer activities. Everyone playing their part in the apprentice's carefully orchestrated operation. Tom. His father's voice carries growing understanding. Those equipment failures, the blocked routes, the communication problems. That wasn't just luck, was it? She allows herself a small smile. Amazing how many things can go wrong when someone knows what to look for, especially someone with certain training. Through his spyglass, he watches the Red River Raiders regrouping at their fallback position. Kane arguing with contractors, professionals realizing their operation is compromised, buyers growing increasingly. Nervous, perfect. Let them think tonight was just a show of force gone wrong. Let them miss how much intelligence they've revealed, how many weaknesses they've exposed. An apprentice knows patience, knows how to turn opponents' strength against them. The real operation is just beginning, and the Red River Raiders are about to learn why some hunters prefer to be underestimated. Dawn breaks over Hope Valley as Thomas observes the silver mine through his spyglass. The weapons buyers' carriages arrive in force, not just the usual representatives, but senior officers. Their presence signals growing concern about the operation's delays. Thompson and Cruz guard the perimeter while contractors argue with Kane. Even from this distance, Thomas reads the tension in their body language, the professional facade cracking under pressure. His telegram buzzes, message from Sarah Palmer. 3 raiders came in last night, injuries consistent with wagon accidents. They're talking scared about equipment failures, blocked routes. Perfect. Fear spreading through their ranks, exactly as planned. Boss ain't happy, he overhears Rivers telling Parker at the water trough. Buyers threatening to pull out. Something about security protocols being compromised. Thomas fills his canteen while appearing to ignore them, but his enhanced hearing catches every word. The enforcer's conversation reveals growing doubts about Kane's leadership, about the contractor's competence, about the entire operation. Hayes's patrol horse rolls past, her lantern recording everything. She parks strategically, allowing Thomas to approach while maintaining surveillance. Wilson's getting pressure from both sides, Hayes reports quietly. Buyers want answers about security breaches. Kane is demanding more police cooperation. It's splitting him apart. Through the store window, Thomas spots Mary handling a tense interaction with Thompson and his crew attempting intimidation. But their usual confidence is shaken. Too many unexplained accidents, too many failed operations. The apprentice's trap is nearly ready to spring. The real hunt is about to begin. Found this in the mine parking area. Hayes passes a drop document across to Thomas. Military. Shipping manifest. Partial details about the weapons shipment. Through his spyglass, Thomas spots movement in the upper offices. Kane's remaining loyalists preparing some kind of last stand while contractors argue about escape options. The real scope of their operation becoming clear. The weapons were just a cover for something bigger. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Kane shouts toward the federal marshal's positions, gathering at the perimeter. "These documents, they're worth more than money. They're power, control." Through thermal imaging in his spyglass, Thomas spots movement in the upper offices. Romano's remaining loyalists preparing some kind of last stand, while contractors argue about escape options. Multiple wagons approaching from the north. His father updates through their coded channel. Not law enforcement, looks like private security. Heavy weapons. "The real owners," Thomas confirms, "coming to clean up their mess." Inside the mine, panic spreads as this news reaches Kane's group. Professional operators recognize the implications. Their employers aren't coming to help. They're coming to eliminate loose ends. "You promised us backup," Thompson confronts Kane. "Said we'd have protection." "Plans change." Kane's hand moves toward his weapon. "But maybe we can still bargain with the weapons, with the data." His words cut off as Thomas's next move unfolds. Every telegraph wire in the facility suddenly activates, showing surveillance, documentation, years of corrupt deals, weapon sales, classified documents changing hands. "What you're seeing," Thomas's voice carries through their compromised communications, "is being transmitted to federal authorities worldwide. Every deal, every sale, every betrayal. The effect is electric. Contractors turn on each other, years of professional discipline shattering. Kane's remaining loyalists split between surrender and desperate resistance. Federal Team 1, Hayes coordinates from her position, move on the east entrance. They're about to break. Kane makes his final move, grabbing a leather document. "Case. You don't understand what these records can do, the power they represent." "Actually," Thomas's voice remains calm, "I understand perfectly. Why do you think I spent months tracking every deal, following every connection, building a case that reaches into the highest levels?" Through her command feeds, he watches the operation's final phase unfold. Federal teams moving with precision, territorial authorities coordinating, justice approaching from all sides. "It's over," he tells Kane directly. "The real players are already under arrest. The classified data is being secured. The whole network exposed." The sheriff's composure finally breaks. "You can't. These people, they control everything." "Not anymore." Private security wagons screech to a halt outside, but they're too late. Federal teams have already secured the facility, the evidence, the witnesses willing to talk. "Sir," a contractor radios urgently, "just got word. Major players arrested." In 6 territories, military officials, defense contractors, government contacts, everyone's going down. The last resistance crumbles. Years of corruption exposed, international arms deals revealed, classified documents secured. The apprentice's operation reaching far beyond one small Nebraska town. "All teams move in," Thomas orders through their secure channel. "Show them what happens when they threaten our community. Because the real victory isn't about weapons or documents. It's about justice, about protecting what matters, about showing that some predators should never be underestimated." Through his network, Thomas watches as federal teams secure the facility. Kane and his remaining loyalists surrender. Contractors facing justice, Sheriff Wilson realizing the true scope of his mistakes. Multiple agencies reporting breakthroughs, Hayes updates. International arrests continuing, banking records exposed, the whole network's coming down. The apprentice's hunt nearing its end. Months of careful planning revealing corruption that reached into the highest levels. Criminal empires learning too late why some hunters prefer to be underestimated. But there's still one final phase to complete. Because somewhere in those documents, in that stolen data, lies evidence of something bigger, something that explains why so many powerful people were involved. Inside the secured mine, federal technicians pore over Kane's document case contents. Thomas studies the papers while Hayes coordinates with territorial authorities. The stolen data reveals locations of classified military installations, weapons research facilities, and strategic points across 3 territories. This goes deeper than arms dealing, Hayes says, reviewing decoded files. These are detailed security protocols, access codes, defense plans. Someone was mapping vulnerabilities, Thomas confirms, creating a blueprint for compromising military installations territory-wide. A technician approaches with newly decrypted files. "Sir, we found something else. Looks like personnel records, undercover operatives, deep cover agents, classified mission details." His father's voice carries urgency through their secure channel. More wagons approaching from the west, different signature than the others, army plates. Through surveillance, Thomas spots a convoy of unmarked carriages. Men in formal military uniforms emerge, carrying federal credentials, but their stance, their movement patterns suggest something else entirely. The real truth about Kane's operation is about to emerge. The apprentice's most dangerous hunt is just beginning. "Agent Mitchell, Defense Intelligence," the lead officer approaches Hayes. "This operation is now under Army jurisdiction. We'll take custody of all materials and suspects." "Actually," Thomas steps forward, "you won't. Because the apprentice hasn't just been hunting arms dealers. He's been gathering evidence of corruption within military ranks themselves, of classified data being sold by the very people meant to protect it." "Stand down, Mr. Warren," Mitchell warns. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." "Wrong!" Thomas transmits data through secure channels. "I understand exactly what I'm dealing with, including who authorized the original theft of these documents." Mitchell's hand moves toward his weapon, but Hayes's deputies already have position. Federal tactical teams maintain their guard, uncertain who to trust. "Check your telegrams," Thomas tells the assembled agents. "Right now, evidence is being transmitted to every major law enforcement agency territory-wide. Proof of who really orchestrated this operation." Through command feeds, he watches the impact. Senior officials arrested in Washington, military commanders taken into custody, intelligence operatives exposed across multiple agencies. "You think this ends here?" Mitchell demands. "In some small Nebraska town?" "No," Thomas agrees. "It ends in congressional hearings, in territorial courts, in full exposure of everyone involved. Because the apprentice hasn't just disrupted a weapons operation, he's uncovered a conspiracy reaching into the highest levels of military intelligence. People who sold national secrets while pretending to protect them. Hayes," he signals quietly, "execute final phase." Suddenly, every telegraph wire in the facility activates, surveillance documentation showing classified documents being sold, military officials accepting bribes, intelligence agents betraying their oaths. "What you're seeing," Thomas announces, "is being broadcast through secured networks to law enforcement agencies territory-wide. Every deal, every betrayal, every act of treason documented." Mitchell's team realizes the trap too late. They're not just facing local law enforcement or federal agents, they're caught in an operation planned by someone who understands exactly how intelligence agencies work. "All sectors reporting," Hayes updates. "Multiple agencies moving on identified. Targets, senior officials taken into custody, classified materials secured. C-2. The apprentice's operation reaching into the heart of military intelligence, exposing corruption that had festered for years, hidden behind badges and credentials and claims of national security." "You've started a war," Mitchell warns as his team surrenders. "These people, their connections reach everywhere." "No," Thomas corrects him, "I've ended one. A war against the very principles you swore to protect." Through his command network, he watches justice unfold. Corrupt officials facing consequences, classified documents secured, years of treason exposed. Because sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the one with a badge or credentials. Sometimes it's the quiet one, the patient one, the one who remembers what real service means. Federal task force reports success across all sectors, Hayes confirms. The entire network identified, every conspirator exposed. But there's still one piece missing, one final revelation that explains why so many powerful people risked everything. In those stolen documents lies a secret worth killing for. The real truth is about to emerge. Buried deep in Kane's files, federal technicians uncover a hidden folder marked Project Ghost. The name sends a chill through Thomas. It's the same operation designation from McGraw's final mission, the one that forced him into hiding. These dates, Hayes examines the documents. They align with major security breaches at 6 military installations, places where prototype weapons mysteriously disappeared. Not just weapons, Thomas realizes, scanning mission reports, test subjects, military personnel subjected to experimental combat enhancement programs that were supposedly shut down. A young technician rushes in with new decryptions. "Sir, we found lists, dozens of former Special Forces operators, all declared killed in action, but their files show active status." Through surveillance, Thomas spots movement at the mines. Perimeter, different from previous tactical teams. These operators move with unnatural precision, their thermal signatures notably cooler than normal human readings. "All units defensive positions," he orders through secure channels. "We've got enhanced operators incoming." Because Project Ghost wasn't just about stealing military secrets, it was about creating the perfect soldiers, using volunteered veterans as test subjects, men transformed into living weapons. Captain McGraw sends his regards. A voice carries inhuman clarity through the darkness, says you should have stayed retired, apprentice. Thomas recognizes the speaker, Lieutenant James Walker, reportedly killed in Kansas, now moving with mechanical efficiency, leading a team of similarly enhanced operators. "James," he responds carefully, "they told us you died in that attack." Evolved is more accurate. Walker's movements blur with impossible speed. Project Ghost gave us everything: strength, speed, enhanced cognition. Why do you think they really wanted these tunnels? Perfect facility for continuing the program. Hayes's voice carries controlled urgency through their channel. Multiple contacts, enhanced signatures, they're surrounding the facility. But Thomas has prepared for this too. Because he hasn't just been hunting arms dealers or corrupt officials, he's been tracking the program that turned good soldiers into unwilling weapons. The real hunt is about to begin. The program wasn't advancement, Thomas tells Walker. It was exploitation, using desperate veterans, promising cures for combat trauma while turning them into test subjects. "We're the future of warfare," Walker responds, but uncertainty edges his voice. "The next evolution of military power." "Your victims," Thomas corrects. "And I've got proof, project files showing what they really did to you, the real mortality rates, the failed experiments they covered up." Through his spyglass, he watches enhanced operators process this information, their inhuman coordination wavering as buried memories surface. "Hayes," Thomas signals quietly, "initiate Protocol Omega." Suddenly, the mine's telegraph system activates, broadcasting a specific frequency. The enhanced operators stagger as hidden programming activates. Fail-safes, built into their augmentations, now turned against their controllers. What's happening? Walker's mechanical precision falters. "These signals breaking their control," Thomas explains. "Freeing you from programming masked as enhancement, letting you remember who you really are." Because the apprentice hasn't just been gathering evidence, he's been working with military doctors, finding ways to reverse what Project Ghost did to its test subjects, to save good soldiers from being used as weapons. Multiple stations responding, Hayes updates. Medical teams standing by, specialists in neural programming, combat trauma, psychological warfare. Through command feeds, Thomas watches similar scenes unfold territory-wide. Enhanced operators, breaking free from control, Project Ghost facilities being exposed, the real perpetrators facing justice. They said we volunteered, Walker's voice carries returning humanity. Said we were advancing military science. They lied, Thomas confirms. Used soldiers' loyalty against them. Turned trauma victims into unwilling weapons. But now you get to choose, to reclaim who you really are. Project Ghost's true architects face a reckoning, not just for weapons trafficking or selling secrets, but for experimenting on veterans, for betraying the very people they claimed to support. Director Marshall is under arrest, Hayes reports. Project files exposed, medical teams mobilizing to help affected veterans. The apprentice's operation revealing its final purpose, not just exposing corruption or stopping arms dealers, but saving good soldiers from being used as weapons, helping them find their way home. In the end, that's what really matters. Not the weapons, or the secrets, or the conspiracies, but remembering that behind every operation, every mission, every battle, there are real people worth fighting for. Walker and his team surrender to medical custody, not as enhanced weapons or failed experiments, but as veterans deserving help, as soldiers finding their way back to humanity. The apprentice's hunt is complete. Justice served not just through force or exposure, but through understanding. Through remembering that sometimes the greatest victory isn't defeating your enemy. Sometimes it's helping them remember who they really are. Dawn breaks over Hope Valley as medical wagons descend on the silver mine. Thomas oversees the treatment of Walker and his enhanced operators, each receiving specialized care to begin reversing Project Ghost's modifications. Neural programming is breaking down, Sarah reports, checking medical readings. Their original memories are resurfacing. It's like waking from a long nightmare. The town itself transforms as federal teams process arrests, Red River raiders facing charges or turning state's evidence, corrupt officials led away in chains, military contractors discovering their employers have already made deals with prosecutors. Found something else, Hayes approaches with newly secured files. Project Ghost wasn't just creating enhanced soldiers, they were selling the technology, trading American military secrets to foreign powers. Through the clinic windows, Thomas watches more unmarked wagons arrive. Military specialists, trauma experts, neural programming analysts, all coordinating to help the enhanced operators recover. They're starting to remember, Sarah updates. Stepping out of a treatment room, combat missions they never officially participated in, operations on American soil, things they were made to do while under control. The scope of betrayal becomes clear. Project Ghost didn't just experiment on veterans, it used them as deniable assets, sending controlled operators to eliminate threats, silence witnesses, enforce corrupt officials' will. Mary arrives with more evidence gathered from bank records, money trails showing how Project Ghost funded itself by selling enhanced soldier technology to the highest bidders. Director Marshall's accounts are exposed, she reports. Offshore holdings, shell companies, hidden payments, the whole financial network mapped. But Thomas's focus remains on the recovering operators, good soldiers who were betrayed, exploited, turned into weapons against their will. Their recovery matters more than any criminal prosecution. How many others? Walker asks weakly from his hospital bed. How many more like us are still out there, still under their control? We'll find them, Thomas promises. Every facility, every test subject, every victim of Project Ghost, and we'll bring them home. Because the apprentice's mission isn't over. Ghost's architects might face justice, its facilities might be exposed, but there are still enhanced operators out there, still good soldiers needing rescue. Through secure channels, Thomas monitors similar scenes unfolding across the country. Enhanced operators breaking free from control, hidden facilities exposed, a decades-long nightmare finally ending. The real work was just beginning. 1. Week after Project Ghost's exposure, Hope Valley hosts a closed congressional hearing. Military officials, intelligence directors, and oversight committees gather in the renovated town hall, processing the full scope of what happened in their quiet Nebraska community. The weapons operation was just the surface, Hayes testifies, presenting evidence to stunned committee members. The Red River Raiders, the corrupt officials, the arms dealing, all of it provided cover for Ghost's true purpose. Thomas observes from the back, noting familiar faces among the gathered authorities, former commanders, intelligence directors, people who once supported McGraw's retirement, now facing consequences for their actions. Director Marshals. Files reveal facilities in 6 territories, a committee member announces, each creating enhanced operators, each selling the technology to foreign powers, the biggest breach of military security in decades. Outside, the town shows signs of recovery. Mary's store reopened stronger than ever. Sarah's clinic expanded with specialized treatment areas. Hayes coordinating with a new, uncorrupted sheriff's department. "They're asking for you," his father mentions quietly as Thomas monitors the proceedings. "The enhanced operators, they want your help finding the others." Because the apprentice's reputation has spread, other controlled operators learning about Hope Valley, about Project Ghost's exposure, about soldiers finding freedom from neural programming. "We've identified 3 more facilities," Hayes approaches during a break. Underground labs using the same tunnel networks the raiders controlled, places where they're still creating enhanced soldiers. The committee reviews Thomas's full operation, how he spent years tracking Ghost's activities, gathering evidence, preparing to expose not just corruption, but systematic betrayal of American soldiers. "These men and women were heroes," a general testifies, voice heavy with shame. Combat veterans seeking treatment for trauma. Instead, they were turned into weapons used for unauthorized operations on American soil. Walker, now free from Ghost's control, provides crucial testimony, describing the programming process, the loss of identity, the missions they were forced to perform while under neural control. "There are others out there," he tells the committee. "Good soldiers trapped like we were, still being used as weapons, still needing rescue." Thomas studies tactical data on his secured documents. Satellite imagery of suspected Ghost facilities, intelligence reports of enhanced operator activities, a mission slowly taking shape. "They're forming a special task force," Hayes informs him during lunch break. "Military oversight, medical support, full federal backing. They want you to lead it. Because who better to hunt Ghost's remaining facilities than the apprentice, the operator who exposed their operation, who helped their victims recover, who knows exactly how they think." Marshall wasn't the only one running these programs, a committee member reveals. "We've identified other directors, other facilities, other versions of Project Ghost. This goes deeper than anyone suspected." Thomas watches the hearing unfold while considering options. The apprentice could retire again, return to quiet ranch life. But there are still soldiers out there needing rescue, still victims requiring justice. The enhanced operators want to help, his father mentions. Once they've recovered, they want to use what was done to them to help save others. Through secure channels, Thomas monitors similar hearings worldwide. Other territories discovering Ghost facilities on their soil, other governments realizing how their military secrets were compromised. This isn't just about justice anymore, Hayes observes. It's about saving people, about helping soldiers find their way home. The committee concludes with a clear mandate: find the remaining facilities, shut down the programs, rescue the operators. Do whatever it takes to end Project Ghost permanently. We'll need a team, Thomas tells Hayes quietly. People we can trust. People who understand what we're really fighting for. Because the apprentice's work isn't finished. Ghost's architects might face justice, its victims might begin recovery. But there are other facilities out there. Other soldiers needing rescue. A new mission takes shape, not about revenge or justice or exposing conspiracies, but about saving those who can't save themselves. About helping warriors remember who they really are. The real work continues as autumn touches the Nebraska. Sandhills, the apprentice's hunt expanding to save others trapped in shadow. Because sometimes the most important victory isn't in defeating your enemy. Sometimes it's about saving those they've trapped, about helping good soldiers find their way back to the light. The true hunt was only beginning. Thomas stands on his ranch porch one last time, the morning sun painting the Sandhills gold, just like it did when this all started. But everything else has changed. Teams assembled. Hayes approaches, now wearing federal tactical gear. Walker and the recovered. Operators are ready, medical units standing by, just waiting on your order. In town, Hope Valley shows its resilience. Mary's store serves as a community center helping families rebuild. Sarah's clinic specializes in treating trauma victims. A new, uncorrupted police force protects restored streets. Congress approved. Everything. His father hands Thomas mission files, full authority, unlimited resources, complete operational freedom. They really want these remaining Ghost facilities shut down. Through his tactical documents, Thomas reviews the assembled team. Former Ghost victims now turned rescuers, medical specialists in neural programming, federal agents who proved their integrity during the crisis. First target identified. Hayes spreads surveillance photos across the porch rail. Underground facility in the Montana Territory. Intel suggests 30 enhanced operators being held there, local military providing cover. The ranch itself transforms into forward operations base. Hidden equipment emerging from concealed compartments, communication arrays activating, an apprentice's hunting ground becoming command center for a larger mission. You don't have to do this, his father reminds his son softly. We could stay, help the town recover, let others handle the remaining facilities. But Thomas watches Walker training with his fellow recovered operators, good soldiers learning to use their enhanced abilities for rescue instead of violence, warriors remembering their true purpose. Some fights choose you, he responds, checking his gear. Some missions matter more than retirement. Because the apprentice's work isn't finished, Ghost's architects might face justice here, its victims might begin recovery in Hope Valley, but there are other facilities out there, other soldiers still trapped in neural programming. Latest intel downloaded, Hayes updates. Facility layouts, security protocols, guard rotations. They're still using the raiders' old tunnel design. Still thinking like predictable predators. The town gathers to bid farewell as wagons arrive. Not just local residents, but committee members, military officials, intelligence directors, all understanding the importance of what starts here. Remember what you promised, Walker tells the assembled authorities. Full pardons for enhanced operators who help shut down Ghost, new identities for their families, real support for recovery. Thomas studies his assembled team while final preparations finish. Former victims becoming rescuers, wounded warriors finding new purpose, an apprentice's hunting pack taking shape. First team deploys in 30 minutes, Hayes coordinates through. Command channels, medical units and recovery transport standing by, local assets confirming target security patterns. Through secure feeds, Thomas monitors similar preparations territory-wide, other regions mobilizing against Ghost facilities on their soil, other agencies realizing the true scope of what they're fighting. This isn't about revenge anymore, he tells his gathered operators. Not about justice or exposure or even stopping corruption. This is about saving people who can't save themselves, about helping warriors remember who they really are. The morning sun climbs higher as wagons start moving out, a quiet Nebraska, ranch becoming launching point for a mission that will span territories, an apprentice's hunt expanding to save others trapped in shadow. "See you soon," his father says simply as Thomas mounts his horse, both knowing some battles matter more than comfort, some missions worth leaving home to complete. Because sometimes the most important victory isn't in defeating your enemy. Sometimes it's about saving those they've trapped, about helping good soldiers find their way back to the light. A new hunt begins, but this time the apprentice isn't alone. This time he leads a pack of hunters, each carrying personal understanding of what they're fighting, each committed to saving others from what was done to them. The real mission continues. The next chapter starts now. Through the dust, Thomas watches Hope Valley fade into morning mist, one small town that proves some predators should never be underestimated. Some hunters remember exactly who they are. The apprentice rides to war again, but this time he hunts to save, not destroy. This time he leads a mission of rescue, not revenge. The true hunt was just beginning. Dawn colors the Montana mountains as Thomas's team approaches their first target, Project Ghost's northern facility, hidden in an abandoned copper mine, using the same tunnel network design he'd encountered in Nebraska. Through his spyglass, he counts guard positions, 30 men, military bearing, enhanced signatures showing on thermal readings. Security patterns confirmed. Hayes reports through their secure channel. Same as the raiders used, 3 shifts, rotating every 6 hours. They're creatures of habit. Thomas watches a group of enhanced operators patrol the perimeter. Their movements are naturally fluid, coordinated with mechanical precision. But now he knows what to look for, sees the subtle signs of control programming. "Medical team standing by," Sarah's voice carries through the wire. "Treatment protocols ready based on Walker's group. We've refined the frequency disruptors." Walker himself moves into position with his team of recovered operators. Their enhanced abilities now turn to rescue, their intimate knowledge of Ghost's protocols becoming their greatest weapon against their former controllers. "Remember," Thomas tells them through secure channels, "these aren't our enemies. They're prisoners, victims like you were. We're here to free them, not fight them." "Getting some strange readings," Hayes interrupts. "Multiple thermal signatures in the lower tunnels, colder than even enhanced operators should be. They're pushing the modifications further here." Thomas's hand tightens on his reins, Project Ghost evolving, creating something even more dangerous. More reason to shut them down. "Security chief identified," one of Walker's team reports. "Major Richardson, former cavalry officer, went missing after Gettysburg, presumed dead." "Not dead," Walker's voice carries grim understanding. "Enhanced. Early test subject. I remember him from the programming chambers. He's fully converted. Doesn't even remember his original identity anymore." Through his spyglass, Thomas spots Richardson directing enhanced patrols. His movements are completely inhuman now, more machine than man. A warning of what happens when Ghost's modifications go too far. They're processing new subjects. Sarah's analysis of the facility's supply. Manifest reveals medical equipment, neural programmers, chemistry we've never seen before. They're accelerating the program. "Which means we move now," Thomas decides. "Hayes, initiate phase 1. Suddenly, every telegraph wire within a mile surges with the specific frequency they'd developed, the one that disrupts Ghost's control programming. Enhanced operators stumble, their mechanical precision wavering as buried memories surface. Multiple subjects responding, Sarah reports. Neural patterns destabilizing. The programming is starting to crack. But Richardson and his core team seem unaffected. They've modified the control protocols, Walker realizes, adjusted for our disruption frequency. Then we adapt, Thomas responds, because Ghost keeps evolving, but so do those who hunt them. Sir, Hayes's voice carries. Urgency. Incoming riders from the east. Military escort. Looks like they're bringing new test subjects. Through his spyglass, Thomas spots the approaching wagon. Bars on the windows, armed guards, medical restraints visible inside. More veterans being brought for treatment, destined to become enhanced operators if they survive the process. Change of plans, he orders. Walker, take your team east. Intercept that wagon. Get those men out before they reach the facility. Hayes, coordinate with local law enforcement. Make sure any backup they call for gets lost in the mountains. What about Richardson? Walker asks. He's mine, Thomas responds quietly, because sometimes the only way to save someone is to get close enough to help them remember who they were. The operation unfolds with precision, born from months of planning. Walker's team disappears into the trees, their enhanced abilities now used to protect instead of hunt. Hayes's network of lawmen ensures no reinforcements will arrive. Sarah's medical team stands ready to treat both rescued veterans and freed operators. Remember, Thomas tells them all, we're not just fighting Ghost. We're fighting for every soldier they've twisted, every veteran they've betrayed, every warrior they've tried to turn into a weapon. Because this isn't just another hunt. It's a rescue mission, a chance to save good soldiers from a fate worse than death, a chance to help them remember who they really are. The morning sun climbs higher as Thomas moves into position. In the distance, Richardson directs his enhanced operators with inhuman efficiency, never suspecting that Ghost's careful programming is about to face something more powerful than mere technology. Because sometimes the strongest weapon isn't enhanced strength or neural programming. Sometimes it's the memory of who you were before. The core of humanity that no amount of modification can fully erase. The apprentice readies himself for the next phase. The real battle for these soldiers' souls is about to begin. The operation unfolds with precision timing. Walker's team intercepts the prisoner wagon, while Hayes's network blocks potential reinforcements. Thomas approaches the facility alone, projecting the same unassuming demeanor that had fooled the Red River Raiders. Unknown rider approaching. South Gate, he hears an enhanced operator report through their captured communications. Single male, unarmed. Let him approach, Richardson's inhuman voice responds. Curious to see who ventures this far into our territory. Thomas rides slowly, hands visible, every movement calculated to appear harmless, but his mind maps positions, angles, timing. Through his enhanced hearing, he catches fragments of confusion spreading through the facility, operators struggling. Against the disruption frequency, buried memories starting to surface. Sir, another operator reports to Richardson, something's wrong with Echo Team. They're experiencing irregularities, behavioral protocols failing. Increase neural suppression, Richardson orders, full power to the control fields. But Thomas notes the uncertainty in some operators' movements now, the programming fighting against awakening humanity, just as planned. Lost contact with Western Perimeter, a voice crackles through their network. Teams not responding to commands because they're remembering. Thomas projects his voice clearly, stopping his horse in the center of the compound. Remembering who they were before Project Ghost, before you turned them into weapons. Richardson emerges from the facility, moving with mechanical precision. His eyes hold no humanity, just cold calculation. The apprentice, he observes. Ghost. Hans last student. We wondered if you'd find us. Did you wonder why? Thomas dismounts slowly. Why I spent years tracking your operation. Why I learned every detail of how you break good soldiers, twist them into things they never wanted to be. We improve them, Richardson responds, perfect them, free them from human weakness. You enslave them, Thomas counters, use their loyalty against them, turn their trauma into chains. Around them, more enhanced operators gather, but their movements are increasingly erratic, the disruption frequency working deeper into Ghost's programming. You're losing control, Thomas observes quietly. Just like you lost yourself. How long since you remembered your real name, Major? Your family? The man you were before Ghost hollowed you out? Something flickers in Richardson's inhuman gaze, a fragment of memory quickly suppressed. The past is irrelevant. We are the future. Are you? Or are you just another victim, another good soldier they stripped of humanity? Thomas takes a careful step forward. Tell me, Major, do you remember Sarah? Richardson's perfect posture falters slightly. That designation is not in my protocols. Not a designation. Your daughter, she's still in Memphis, still believes her father died a hero at Gettysburg, never knew he was taken, transformed, turned into Ghost's perfect soldier. Irrelevant, Richardson snaps, but his voice holds a tremor. Neural programming optimal. Control protocols are failing, Thomas finishes softly, because deep down, under all their modifications, these men remember who they are, and so do you. Through his peripheral vision, he sees Walker's team moving into position, freed veterans safely evacuated, Hayes's people securing the perimeter, Sarah's medical units ready to respond. Look at your men, Major. Thomas gestures to the increasingly unstable operators. Really look at them, not as weapons or assets, as soldiers, as humans. See what Ghost has done to them, what it's done to you. I don't. Richardson's mechanical precision cracks further. Sarah, she used to. Wear her hair in braids, Thomas provides gently. Had her mother's eyes, cried when you left for war, prayed every night for your return. More operators stumble, Ghost's control programming fighting a losing battle against awakening memories. Against the fundamental humanity, no amount of modification can fully erase. She still keeps your letters, Thomas continues, still visits your empty grave, still hopes somehow, somewhere, her father survived. No, Richardson's enhanced voice breaks. Neural programming, but must maintain, must remember. Thomas steps closer. Must fight. Must come back to yourself, because Sarah's not the only one waiting. Every one of these men has someone hoping they'll return. Everyone. Ghost has twisted, has someone praying they'll remember who they really are. The compound erupts in chaos as control programming fails across multiple operators. Some collapse, others cry out as memories flood back, the carefully constructed walls of Ghost's mental prison shattering. Medical teams move in, Thomas orders through their secure channel. Sarah, priority to the ones showing strongest memory response. Hayes, secure the facility. Walker, sweep for any additional prisoners. Richardson stands frozen, decades of programming warring with resurging humanity. I remember Sarah's 10th birthday. She wanted a pony. And you borrowed one from the neighbor's farm, Thomas provides. Let her ride it all afternoon. She named it Star. Star, Richardson whispers. The inhuman precision leaves his posture. His enhanced voice cracks with tears. My God, what have I become? What have I done to these men? What Ghost did to you, Thomas corrects gently. But now you can help us free others. Help us find the other facilities. Help us save every soldier they've tried to turn into a weapon. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't in defeating your enemy. Sometimes it's in helping them remember they were never meant to be enemies at all. The dawn breaks over freed men weeping as memories return, over soldiers remembering their names, their families, their humanity. Over the beginning of healing, the apprentice's hunt continues. But with each facility they free, each operator they save, the light grows stronger. The darkness of Project Ghost fades. The real mission was just beginning. 3 days after the Montana facility's liberation, Thomas oversees the recovery efforts. The old copper mine transformed into a treatment center, Sarah and her medical team working tirelessly to help freed operators regain themselves. Neural patterns stabilizing, Sarah reports, checking readings on a former ghost operative. The enhanced capabilities remain, but the control programming is breaking down. They're remembering who they are. Through the facility windows, Thomas watches Walker working with newly freed operators, teaching them to control their modifications, to use their enhanced abilities for rescue instead of violence, the hunters becoming healers. Richardson's intel is proving invaluable. Hayes approaches with fresh documentation. He's identifying other facilities, key personnel, operational protocols. 4 more locations confirmed, including 1 in Dakota Territory. Thomas studies the tactical maps, mind already planning next moves. But his attention keeps returning to the recovery ward, where Richardson sits writing letters. Decades of correspondence to a daughter who thought him dead, making up for lost time. Got something else? Hayes continues, voice lower. Richardson's records show Ghost wasn't just creating enhanced operators. They were developing something new, something worse. She spreads technical documents across the command table, project specifications that make Thomas's blood run cold. Complete neural replacement, removing human consciousness entirely, creating perfect soldiers with no memory, no identity, no possibility of breaking programming. How close are they? Thomas asks quietly. Close. The Dakota facility. It's their primary research center, where they perfect the process before implementing it territory-wide. Outside, more wagons arrive, families reuniting with freed. Operators, tears and embraces as loved ones, long thought lost return home. Different but alive, changed but healing. They're calling it Project Omega, Hayes continues, the final solution to the human element in warfare. No more risk of operators remembering who they were. No more chance of breaking programming. No more humanity at all, Thomas finishes. Because this is what Ghost has always wanted, not just enhanced soldiers, but perfect weapons. Things that were never human to begin with. Tom. Walker approaches, his enhanced movements now tempered with returning personality. The new operators, they're talking about what they saw in the Dakota facility, about the things Ghost is creating there. Thomas remembers McGraw's final warning years ago during their last training session, about how some enemies don't just want to defeat you, they want to erase everything that makes you human, everything that makes life worth fighting for. How many? He asks Walker. At least 50 in various stages of the process, but these aren't like us, these are... Walker struggles to find words. Empty, like looking into a void where a soul should be. Sarah joins them, medical reports in hand. The process isn't perfect yet. They're losing subjects, but they're getting closer. Each attempt lasts longer, maintains programming better. If they perfect it, they won't, Thomas states firmly. Because this is what he's been training for all along. Not just to fight Ghost, but to stop them from destroying the very essence of what makes a warrior, what makes a human. Assemble the team, he orders. Everyone who's stable enough for field operations. Every enhanced operator who remembers who they are. Every soldier who wants to make sure no one else suffers what they did. The Dakota facility will be heavily defended, Hayes warns. All their research, their developments, Everything they've worked toward. They'll throw everything they have at us. Good. Thomas checks his gear, mind already formulating plans. Because we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for every soldier they want to hollow out, every warrior they want to turn into an empty shell. Richardson approaches, his mechanical movements now softened with returning. Humanity. I know the facility's layout, security protocols, weak points. Let me help end what I helped create. Through the windows, Thomas watches more freed operators training, learning to use their enhancements for protection instead of destruction. Soldiers remembering their true purpose, not to be weapons, but to defend those who can't defend themselves. We move in 3 days, he announces. Every operator who's ready, every soldier who wants to fight. One final mission to end project, Ghost forever. Because sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought for territory or power or revenge. Sometimes they're fought for the soul itself, for the right to remain human in an increasingly inhuman world. The apprentice's hunt nears its climax, but this time he doesn't hunt alone. This time he leads an army of the remembered, of the redeemed, of warriors who've reclaimed their humanity and will die before letting Ghost steal it from others. The real war was about to begin. Dawn touches the Montana peaks as preparations accelerate. Enhanced operators honing their abilities, medical teams prepping equipment, support personnel gathering intelligence. All building toward one final confrontation, because in the end, this isn't just about stopping Ghost. It's about preserving what makes us human, what makes life worth fighting for, what makes a warrior more than just a weapon. The light grows stronger. The darkness trembles. The true battle approaches. Dawn breaks cold over the Dakota territory as Thomas's force approaches Ghost's primary facility. Built into an abandoned gold mine, its surface structures disguise the horror occurring in the depths below. Through his spyglass, he counts defensive positions, 100 enhanced operators, their movements mechanical, precise, devoid of human variation. Those aren't like us, Walker observes from his position. No trace of original personality remaining, just empty shells following protocols. Project Omega's first successes, Richardson adds grimly. What they wanted to turn all of us into. What they'll do to every soldier they can capture if we don't stop them. Thomas watches the facility's automated defense systems, Ghost's latest innovation. Machines controlling machines that used to be men. The perversion of everything. A warrior should be. Medical teams in position, Sarah reports through their secure channel. But Tom, these readings are different. The neural patterns, they're not just suppressed like before. They're gone, completely erased. Multiple supply wagons approaching from the north, Hayes adds. More test subjects. They're accelerating production now that other facilities are compromised. Thomas signals his assembled force, 60 freed operators, each carrying the enhanced abilities Ghost gave them, but now guided by recovered humanity. Supported by medical teams, law enforcement and territorial authorities, all coordinating for one final strike. Remember, he tells them through their network, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every soldier they want to erase, every warrior they want to turn into an empty weapon, everything that makes us human. Primary target confirmed, Hayes reports. Dr. Marcus Wells, Ghost's chief researcher, the one who developed the consciousness erasure process. Through his spyglass, Thomas spots Wells emerging from the facility, a thin man in a pristine coat, surrounded by empty-eyed guards. The monster who found a way to kill the soul while leaving the body alive. Security protocols unchanged. Richardson provides 3 layers of defense, rotating patrols, automated responses. They're still using the same playbook, just with upgraded pieces. Because they don't think we can breach it, Thomas responds. They don't understand that humanity isn't weakness. That remembering who you are makes you stronger, not vulnerable. The morning sun climbs higher as Thomas gives the signal. Suddenly, every telegraph wire within a mile carries their disruption frequency, the same one that broke Ghost's control programming in other facilities. But this time, nothing happens. The empty operators continue their mechanical patrols, unaffected. No response, Sarah reports urgently. These subjects, there's nothing left to wake up, no original consciousness to restore. Then we do this. The hard way, Thomas decides, because sometimes you can't save everyone. Sometimes you can only prevent there from being more victims. All teams execute, he orders. The operation unfolds with precision, born from months of planning. Walker's enhanced operators breach the perimeter, while Hayes's people secure escape routes. Sarah's medical teams stand ready to treat casualties. The facility erupts in chaos, but a different kind than before. No confused operators remembering themselves, no programming breaking down. Just empty shells fighting with mechanical efficiency against warriors who remember what they're fighting for. They're faster than us, Walker reports as his team engages. Stronger, more coordinated, but they can't adapt, can't think beyond their protocols. Because they're not fighting, Thomas responds. They're just following orders, and that will never be as powerful as fighting for something real. The battle flows like water as Thomas makes his way deeper into the facility. Empty operators fall to his enhanced allies, their perfect programming no match for human intuition and adapted tactics. But the cost is high, good soldiers falling to overwhelming force and inhuman coordination. Wells is moving to the lower levels, Hayes reports, trying to evacuate research data, destroy evidence. Not this time. Thomas heads deeper, Richardson and Walker covering his advance. Because this ends today, the corruption of everything. A warrior should be stops here. They find Wells in his laboratory, surrounded by empty operators and medical equipment. Tanks filled with neural suppression fluid line the walls. Operating tables with restraints tell silent stories of soldiers. Unmade. You can't stop progress, Wells announces, his voice academic, detached. Human consciousness is inefficient. Emotional attachment prevents optimal performance. We're creating perfect soldiers. You're creating abominations, Thomas responds. Things that look like men but have nothing inside. No soul, no humanity, no understanding of what they're fighting for. Precisely, Wells smiles. The next stage of warfare. No hesitation, no mercy, no troublesome questions about right or wrong. No purpose, Thomas corrects. No honor. Nothing worth fighting for. He looks at the empty operators surrounding Wells. Nothing worth living for. The battle that follows is like nothing in Thomas's training. Empty operators move with perfect coordination, their enhanced abilities unburdened by human limitations. But they also lack human strength, the power that comes from fighting for something real, something worth dying for. In the end, it's not Thomas's enhanced speed or combat training that wins the day. It's the thing Ghost could never understand, never replicate, never control, the human spirit itself. The fire that burns in warriors who know exactly who they are and what they're fighting for. Wells falls, his perfect soldiers scattered, his research burns, the process for creating empty weapons lost forever. The price is high. Good soldiers. Lost, others wounded, some changed forever by what Ghost did to them. But as dawn breaks over the Dakota facility, something else rises too. Hope. Humanity. The understanding that some things are worth fighting for, worth dying for, worth remaining human for. The apprentice's hunt ends, but the real victory isn't in defeating Ghost. It's in preserving what they tried to destroy, the soul of what it means to be a warrior. To be human. The light grows stronger, the darkness fades. The true battle was won. 1 month after Ghost's fall, Thomas stands on his ranch porch watching the Nebraska sunrise. The same view that started everything, but now seen through different eyes, through the eyes of someone who helped save not just lives, but souls. Final reports confirmed. Hayes approaches, no longer in federal tactical gear, but still carrying herself with newfound purpose. All Ghost facilities identified and shut down, every surviving operator accounted for, every victim given a chance at recovery. In town, Hope Valley has become something new, a sanctuary for freed operators learning to live again. Sarah's clinic specializes in neural recovery, helping soldiers reclaim themselves. Mary's store serves as a gathering place where warriors remember how to be human. Richardson's testimony to Congress changed everything, his father observes, joining them with coffee. New laws protecting veterans, oversight on military medical programs, safeguards against another ghost ever rising. Through his spyglass, Thomas watches Walker leading training exercises on the North Pasture, enhanced operators learning to use their abilities to protect rather than destroy. The hunters becoming guardians. Got something you should see. Hayes spreads papers across the porch rail. Messages from across the territories, other towns wanting to establish recovery centers, military units requesting training on identifying ghost-like operations, people wanting to make sure this never happens again. Because the apprentice's mission created something larger than himself, a network of protectors, of healers, of warriors who remember what they're fighting for. They're calling it the Guardian Protocol, Hayes continues, using our methods to help trauma victims, to prevent good soldiers from being exploited, to preserve the humanity in warfare itself. Thomas studies the documents while watching more wagons arrive, families reuniting with freed operators, communities offering homes to those still healing, a nation remembering that its warriors are humans first, weapons never. McGraw would be proud, his father says quietly, not just of how you fought, but of what you protected, what you preserved, because in the end, the apprentice's greatest victory wasn't in defeating Ghost. It was in saving what Ghost tried to destroy, the soul of what it means to be a warrior, the heart of what makes us human. We found more. Files, Hayes adds, other programs, other experiments, other attempts to turn soldiers into weapons. But now we know what to look for. Now we know how to fight it. Through the window, Thomas watches Richardson teaching young deputies, sharing his hard-won wisdom about how to spot exploitation, how to protect the vulnerable, how to maintain humanity in an increasingly mechanical world. The enhanced abilities remain, Sarah reports, joining them with medical updates. But now they're tools, not chains, gifts used to protect, not weapons used to destroy. Because sometimes the greatest strength isn't in what's been done to you, but in how you choose to use it, in remembering that every power comes with responsibility, every ability with purpose. They're asking for guidance, Hayes mentions. Other territories, other units, other people fighting similar battles. They want to know how to preserve humanity while facing inhuman threats. Thomas contemplates this while watching the morning activity. Enhanced operators helping with ranch work, their mechanical precision now softened with returning personality. Medical teams developing new treatments, their knowledge turned to healing instead of control. Law enforcement learning, new ways to protect those who can't protect themselves. Then we'll teach them, he decides, share what we've learned. Help them remember that the strongest weapon isn't enhanced strength or perfect programming. It's knowing exactly who you are and what you're fighting for. Because the apprentice's journey created more than just victory. It created understanding, hope, a way forward that preserves humanity while facing humanity's darkest creations. Found something else in Wells's files, Hayes adds softly. Other projects, other attempts to mechanize warfare, to remove the human element entirely. Let them try, Thomas responds, because now they know how to fight such things. Now they remember that humanity isn't weakness, it's the greatest strength of all. The morning sun climbs higher as more. People arrive, freed operators starting new lives, families rebuilding broken bonds, communities learning how to heal. The darkness of ghost fading into memory as something brighter takes its place. Because sometimes the greatest victories aren't won through force or power or perfect programming. Sometimes they're won by remembering what makes us human, what makes life worth fighting for, what makes a warrior more than just a weapon. The apprentice's hunt is complete, but its legacy continues in every operator who remembers who they are, every soldier who maintains their humanity, every warrior who fights for something real. Through his spyglass, Thomas watches the future unfold, a future where humanity isn't weakness, where soldiers remain human, where the light grows stronger than any darkness trying to extinguish it. The real mission was just beginning. Dawn touches the Sandhills as another day starts, but now it's more than just a sunrise. It's a reminder that some lights can never be extinguished, some souls can never be erased, some warriors remember exactly who they are and what they're fighting for. The true victory was won not just in battle, but in preservation, in remembrance, in the unquenchable flame of human spirit that burns brighter than any darkness trying to consume it. The apprentice's story becomes legend, but its truth lives on in every warrior who remembers that their greatest strength isn't in what's been done to them, but in who they choose to be. The light grows stronger, the darkness fades. The real story was just beginning. History remembers the Battle of Dakota Territory differently than most conflicts. Not for the number of casualties or the scale of combat, but for what it preserved, for the moment when humanity proved stronger than any attempt to erase it. Thomas still receives telegrams from across the territories, stories of freed operators building new lives, of communities healing, of warriors remembering who they are. Each message a reminder that some victories echo far beyond the battlefield. Got another request, Hayes mentions one autumn morning joining him on the ranch porch. Army unit in Texas territory. Found something that looks like early ghost protocols. Want our guidance before they engage. Because the apprentice's mission created more than just victory. It created awareness, understanding, a network of guardians watching for any attempt to turn soldiers into weapons, to strip warriors of their humanity. Richardson's training program is expanding, she continues. 10 more territories adopting the Guardian Protocol, teaching law enforcement how to spot exploitation, how to protect veterans, how to preserve humanity while facing inhuman threats. Through his spyglass, Thomas watches Walker leading exercises in the North Pasture. Enhanced operators learning to use their abilities with precision, tempered by conscience, their mechanical efficiency now guided by restored humanity. The modifications are stabilizing, Sarah reports, joining them with medical updates. Neural patterns show complete restoration of original personality while maintaining enhanced capabilities. They're becoming what Ghost never intended. Humans first, enhanced second. In town, Hope Valley has transformed into something unique, a place where broken warriors remember how to be whole. Mary's store hosts weekly gatherings where operators share stories, rebuild connections, remember who they were before Ghost tried to hollow them out. Congress is expanding the program, his father adds, bringing coffee. New facilities opening across the territories, places for recovery, for healing, for turning weapons back into warriors. Because the apprentice's legacy isn't just in victory over Ghost, it's in what rose from that victory. Understanding that humanity isn't weakness, that conscience isn't inefficiency, that the strongest warriors are those who remember exactly what they're fighting for. McGraw would understand, Thomas observes quietly. He always said the most dangerous predator isn't the strongest or fastest. It's the one that remembers why it hunts. Through secure channels, reports continue flowing. Other threats identified. Other attempts to mechanize warfare exposed. Other battles to preserve humanity in an increasingly inhuman world. But now they know how to fight such things. Now they remember that the greatest weapon isn't enhanced strength or perfect programming. It's the human spirit itself. They're calling it the Ghost War, Hayes mentions. Not for the project we destroyed, but for what we preserved. The ghost of humanity that refuses to be erased. Thomas watches more wagons arrive, families reuniting with recovered operators, communities offering sanctuary to those still healing, a nation remembering that its warriors deserve to remain human. What happens now? Walker asks, joining them after training. Ghost is gone, but there will be others. Other programs, other attempts to turn soldiers into weapons. Then we'll be ready, Thomas responds. Because the apprentice's hunt created more than just victory, it created guardians, protectors, warriors who remember that their greatest strength isn't in what's been done to them, but in who they choose to be. The morning sun climbs higher, as Hope Valley stirs to life. Enhanced operators helping with daily tasks, their mechanical precision now softened with personality. Medical teams developing new treatments, their knowledge turned to healing instead of control. Law enforcement, learning new ways to protect those who can't protect themselves. Found something in the old records, Hayes adds softly. Other projects, other experiments, the darkness always trying new ways to extinguish the light. Let it try, Thomas responds, because now they know how to fight such things. Now they remember that humanity isn't weakness, it's the greatest strength of all. Through his spyglass, he watches the future unfold, a future where warriors remain human, where soldiers fight for something real, where the light grows stronger than any darkness trying to consume it. Because sometimes the greatest victories aren't won through force or power or perfect programming. Sometimes they're won by remembering what makes us human. What makes life worth fighting for? What makes a warrior more than just a weapon? The apprentice's hunt is complete, but its legacy continues in every operator who remembers who they are, every soldier who maintains their humanity, every warrior who fights for something more than just orders. Dawn touches the Nebraska Sandhills as another day begins. But now, it's more than just a sunrise. It's a reminder that some lights can never be extinguished, some souls can never be erased. Some hunters remember exactly why they hunt. The true victory was won not just in battle, but in preservation, in remembrance, in the unquenchable flame of human spirit that burns brighter than any darkness trying to consume it. The apprentice's story becomes legend. But its truth lives on in every warrior who remembers that their greatest strength isn't in what's been done to them, but in who they choose to be. The light grows stronger, the darkness fades, and somewhere in the territory, a young soldier facing his own battles hears the story of the farm boy who saved not just lives, but souls, who proved that humanity isn't weakness, that conscience isn't inefficiency, that the strongest warriors are those who remember exactly what they're fighting for. The real story never ends. It lives on in every heart that refuses to be hollowed, every soul that refuses to be erased, every warrior who remembers that the greatest battles are fought not just with strength or skill, but with the unquenchable light of human spirit. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.